Welcome again to the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. Glad to be with you on this Tuesday morning. Again, just a week from Election Day. Richard Cross in for Paul, Lance Tolbert in the studio. On January 5th, 2009, Dr. Mark Keenum became the 19th president of Mississippi State, moving toward that 16-year anniversary. He joins us this morning. Dr. Keenum, always a pleasure to spend some time with you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Well, Richard, good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm very impressed with that lead-in song you were playing. For two Ole Miss Rebels to play the MSU fight song, I think that's outstanding. So thank you very much.
Well, that was something that I dug deep into the archives and pulled out and told Lance that's absolutely what we needed to do. You know, everybody's from somewhere, Dr. Keenum, and that just happens to be from where our degrees come. So much to get to, so many directions that we could go. The IHL, at least to my knowledge, has not officially released enrollment numbers. I think a year ago those came out on November 2nd, so usually end of October, beginning of November. Give us a little bit of a peek behind the curtain. I know you can't officially talk about what those numbers are for Mississippi State, but there's so much discussion nationally about an enrollment cliff. And yet the trends that we've seen here in Mississippi seem to have been a little bit different in recent years.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're right. Our official IHL enrollment numbers will be released on Friday, November the 1st. And I can tell you from Mississippi State, give you a little sneak preview, we're looking at another all-time record enrollment this year. We're up several hundred students, which I'm excited about. And again, another enrollment record for us. We're growing, and that's something that we're committed to do. We have a vision of growth. We want to grow. But we recognize, like you say, that the high school age population across the nation is going down. And it's not just a Mississippi issue, it's a national issue. And so we're very cognizant of that. We're making plans to address that from an enrollment growth standpoint because our vision is to continue to grow. And we look forward to doing that. We're building new buildings on our campus, new academic buildings, new residence hall to accommodate the growth for our university. And so we recognize it's an issue, but we're working hard, as are all the other universities in the IHL system, to prepare for what is inevitable, the decline in high school numbers across our state and across the nation.
Mentioned that 2009 is when you became president at Mississippi State. I'm curious how the role of president has changed for you over the last decade and a half.
Well, I don't know that it's really changed very much. You know, my role is to serve our students and to be accountable to all of their parents and getting them the highest quality education that they possibly can achieve to go out and make a difference in this world and have an impact in this world. And we're committed to research. We're a leading research university. I like to brag and say we are the leading research university in the state. We generate more than half of all the research, for that matter, more than $320+ million. And that's research that we can do to help serve our state, serve our citizens, and work in areas that are on the cutting edge of science and development that our state needs for our future growth and for jobs for our citizens. So, I don't see the job has evolved or changed one bit over these years, and it's hard to believe I've been here that long. I'll be honest with you, but I love this university. I love this school. I love our people. Mississippi State people are really special and wonderful, and I'm a proud product of this university. And all that I've achieved in my life, I owe it back to the people here at this university who helped prepare me to go out and live my life and contribute back to society.
You know, it's interesting as you talk about the research piece that exists with Mississippi State. I feel like in a lot of ways we think of business is over here and the academic world is over here and never the twain shall meet. And yet we have seen more and more partnerships between universities and businesses, specifically here within the state of Mississippi, when you think about the manufacturing industry, engineering projects, shipbuilding that's happening on the coast. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of those partnerships that exist between Mississippi State and industry within our state?
Right. Well, I'll give you an example. I was just down on the coast this past week with one of our industry partners, Ingalls Shipyard, Huntington Ingalls, and reaffirming our relationship, our partnership with them to help them meet their needs for their massive industry that's so vital, not only to our state and our state economy, but for our national defense. We do extensive work with them, and we're an educational partner for their employees to continue their education through distance learning in Mississippi State. And, a lot of people don't realize that Mississippi State University is ranked number 4 in the nation. Think about this. We're the 4th ranked university in high-performance supercomputing. So we're a supercomputing powerhouse here at Mississippi State, and we're building at this very moment another supercomputing center on our campus to accommodate even more supercomputers coming to our university. And we use this unbelievable computing firepower to help serve our industries in the state, like Ingalls Shipyard and other industries across Mississippi. We have our CAVS Center, our Center for Advanced Vehicular Center, extension office located in Canton, Mississippi. And that's an industrial engineering facility that goes out and works with businesses, small businesses, large industries, to help companies across our state be as efficient as they can in their manufacturing and operations. So we have a statewide mission to help serve our state in so many ways. And yes, supporting our industries and businesses across the state is one of the most important things that we do as a land-grant university in serving our state.
When you look at the greater good, the greater need in Mississippi, we have so many students, regardless of where they go to school, that when they graduate, they move away from Mississippi. Some of our best and brightest. We are fortunate that we have some that choose to stay here and build their careers here, build their families here, contribute to the growth of the state. But in terms of those that move away, is there anything that you see from your time, whether it's in Washington prior to this role or your time as a president, that could aid that could convince more students to stay in the state of Mississippi to contribute to its growth?
Well, it's incumbent on us, as I mentioned, serving our industries and businesses to help create opportunities for our students to stay in Mississippi. The enrollment body of our campus is about 65% Mississippi students. So the overwhelming majority of the students at our university are from the state of Mississippi. And I can tell you that the overwhelming majority of our graduates would prefer to stay here in their home state, to have a career, to raise their family. And it's incumbent on us, our state leaders, and all of us to do all we can to create opportunities for our students who would prefer to stay in Mississippi to stay here. But you got to keep in mind that we produce high quality graduates from unbelievable programs that we offer here. And so they're highly sought after by industries and companies all across the country. And so I can't blame a young person who gets their degree, engineering degree or computer science or cybersecurity or artificial intelligence degree or whatever they major in, and they're sought after by some of the leading industries and companies across the country to pursue their dreams. But we do want to attract them to come back home. And many do come back home and look for opportunities to come back home. And so we've got to work hard, and we are working hard, again, with our state leaders. And you can look at some of the industries that are growing, that we are trying to attract high-tech jobs or the future type jobs here in Mississippi, and we have the opportunities to do it. And we are doing it, and we're going to continue to work with our leaders and our economic development across our state. In Mississippi State, most times are at the table when we're trying to talk to leading industries and companies. They want Mississippi State University sitting there with them as we're making the pitch for that company to come and locate in the state of Mississippi because of all that we can bring to bear to help serve that industry when they locate in our state. So creating jobs, creating opportunities for our graduates is what we have to focus on, Richard, to help grow our economy and lift the boat for all of our citizens in the state of Mississippi.
Visiting with Dr. Mark Keenum. He's the president at Mississippi State, has agreed to spend a few more minutes with us on the other side of this break. We may get him to reach into his past a little bit and tell us what it's like in this final week before Election Day. Dr. Keenum, of course, spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. on Senator Thad Cochran's staff, and I might get him to look into the past just a little bit. And more topics with the president at Mississippi State, Dr. Mark Keenum. You're listening to the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back right after this. You've got it locked in on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday morning. Continuing our conversation with the president at Mississippi State University, Dr. Mark Keenum. Kind to spend a few more minutes with us this morning. I am curious how big a soccer fan you have become in the last almost 6 weeks to 2 months as the Mississippi State women's soccer team just won its first SEC championship, undefeated in conference play, and only allowed 3 goals the entire season. That's pretty incredible.
It is incredible, and I'm so proud of our young ladies and Coach Armstrong and what they've achieved. And, this has been a building process. This has been over several years, and of course, last year we were in the NCAA tournament, hosted a tournament here in Starkville, game. And so it's been a building process, but it's all come together, of course, this year. And to be at our soccer games and be with our just excited fans and the cowbells ringing, it's an exciting, fun place to be. And you look at like at Texas A&M this past weekend when our team was playing there, at the large number of Mississippi State fans that were there at College Station supporting our team. So we're just elated by their success, and we're excited about watching how far they go in the SEC tournament and then the NCAA tournament. And, they're ranked number 3 in the country right now. So there's a lot of excitement about football at Mississippi State University, but it's our ladies football team. We're excited.
And football.
Football, right.
I'd love to switch gears just a second ago. You spent a long time on Capitol Hill in D.C., first as a legislative assistant, then as chief of staff to Senator Thad Cochran. I'm just curious what it's like in the days leading up to an election. Now, you may not have been involved in many where it was super close down the stretch. Senator Cochran enjoyed some comfortable wins along the way. But more in terms of what Washington, D.C. feels like in the anticipation in the last couple of weeks leading up to Election Day, especially in an election that is expected to be very close.
Well, it seems like in the last few decades, it's just all so close. Our country's so divided in the political spectrum of our nation. And, I was thinking, I heard you comment earlier this morning about it could be a couple of days before we know after the election who actually is our next president. And it got me thinking about an election that I was very involved in back almost a quarter of a century ago, and that was the election of President George W. Bush and the election in Al Gore in 2000. And, it was razor thin. I mean, absolute razor thin. And you mentioned hanging chads in Florida and all that entailed. But you know what? It wasn't until mid-December, right. I think it was December 12th, that the Supreme Court finally put it to an end, and we knew who our next president was. So we went over a month after the election. Few people really realize that or remember that. And then the Senate was 50-50 when we started that year, 2001, and the House was Republican. And so by nature of President Bush being our president, we had control of the Senate. And so, but then you think about it, later that year, I think it was in June of that year, 2001, there was a senator from Vermont. His name was Jim Jeffers. He was a Republican. And he decided he got upset with President Bush about something. And he stepped away from being a Republican and went independent and caucused with the Democrats. And that turned the whole Senate upside down, because we went from having the chairmanship of all the committees. Senator Cochran was a chairman of two big major appropriation subcommittees, and he lost those chairmanships. Senator Lott was our majority leader, and he lost his majority leadership when Senator Jeffers flipped from being a Republican to an independent and caucused with Democrats, turned our whole government upside down. So I think about how divided we were back then, a quarter of a century ago, as a nation, in our government, in our politics. But then think about it, Richard, just a couple of months later, how united our nation was in the aftermath of the terrible attack on 9/11. And we weren't Republicans or Democrats anymore. We were Americans. I've never witnessed anything like that ever, especially being in Washington at that time in the aftermath of the terrible attack on our nation, the terrorist attack on our nation, how united our country became. We are Americans, and I wish we could have a day where our country can come back and be united and not be so divisive in so many ways. But and Senator Cochran was a type of leader that he was a statesman. Everybody describes him, and he was a statesman in every true sense of that word. He represented our state. He was a conservative. He voted very conservatively. He was always ranked as being one of the most conservative senators in the Senate. But when people thought of Senator Cochran, they didn't think of him as being a hard right. They thought of him as being a moderate because of how he treated people on both sides of the aisle. And he had tremendous respect from both Republicans and Democrats because he was a fair person, but he always represented Mississippi in a very conservative way because that's who Mississippi is.
Yeah, that time where legislators seem to have decorum at the top of the list of priorities within the Senate and the House seems to be in the rearview mirror. I echo what you say, saying it'd be nice if we could get back to that and maybe do some governing that's good for.
And governing, right, and working together. Just having respect for one another. I may not agree with your politics, but I don't have to tear you down as a human being, as a person. I can respect you, and that's what Senator Cochran did. He would vehemently debate and argue against a fellow senator across the aisle, but he could, after the debate and the vote, then they could be friends, and we've gotten away from that, and we just don't have that any longer, and it's really a shame. You have to be one or the other. You can't be collegial with one another any longer, and that's not good for our nation. It's just not, and unfortunately, that's where we are.
And I don't know if there's a way to get back to that, or if it's kind of a point of no return. I want to ask you about one other thing. So many roles when you serve as university president, especially for a long time, especially in a conference like the Southeastern Conference. You are chair of the board of managers for the college football playoff. We are entering this first year of a 12-team playoff. There were some that argued, this is going to diminish games in the regular season. I thought it was an argument that was full of fallacy at the time. Maybe there are some games that are diminished in importance, but you add so many more. And we've been seeing it play out for, 2, 3, 4 weeks already with a whole lot left in the season. Are your colleagues pleased with how this season has gone in anticipation of the first 12-team playoff?
Yes, absolutely. It's playing out just like we anticipated, that you bring more excitement into the regular season. And these games, as we get down the backstretch of the season, these are playoff games for many schools. And you lose and you're out. You get that second loss or maybe third loss, and you're going to go to the Music City Bowl. You're not going to the college football playoff. And so it keeps that fan interest all the way down the stretch. And then when we get to the playoffs, the first round playoffs, which will be hosted on college campuses, and the excitement around those fan bases is going to be over the top. And it's unfortunate it took us so long. It took us 5 years from when we started this process to expand the playoff. There were a lot of reasons for it, but we finally got it done, and I'm just thrilled, excited, and just it's going to add so much more to the sport. It gives these young men too, many more young athletes, football players, an opportunity to compete in the national tournament to determine who our national champion would be, who otherwise would not have that opportunity. So I'm excited about it.
I want to try and squeeze one more thing in with you. We've got a minute left. We can't adequately do this. I spoke with Charlie Baker last week, president of the NCAA, and he was optimistic that the House settlement, which is kind of the compromise that's going to allow revenue sharing with student athletes and maybe kind of help with the NIL situation a little bit. He was optimistic because the preliminary ruling from the judge a couple of weeks ago that it was going to be approved. Do you anticipate his optimism that happens and gets done?
Well, I can tell you the Southeastern Conference, all our presidents and chancellors are working under the assumption that it will go forward as Judge Claudia Wilkin has ruled in her preliminary judgment. So we're making plans now to prepare for that, to provide the back payments. The NCAA will be a big part of the back payments to former athletes. And we're preparing for the revenue share going forward to our current and future athletes. So, yes, we're working, putting plans together, a lot of details to work out. But I am optimistic. I share his optimism on that.
Dr. Keenum, really appreciate your time. Always enjoy the visits, and look forward to seeing you soon.
My pleasure, Richard. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Dr. Mark Keenum, president at Mississippi State, joining us on the Gallo Radio Show on SuperTalk Mississippi. We'll take a timeout, wrap up the 7 o'clock hour with you when we come back.